respected dignitaries on the desk, off the desk. I am Amishi Patel. I am pursuing PhD from Gujarat University School of Law, and fortunately my topic on which I am doing my PhD is law and policies in water and sanitation. So I am feeling fortunate that I am being a part of this seminar. Now, sanitation has always been a neglected issue in law and policy in terms in the past. But the concept has been changing over the past few decades due to the realization of the importance of sanitation in the life of all living beings and a close linkage between the life, health, dignity, human rights, etc. Sanitation is a complex and a wide topic. It includes various dimensions of sanitation which affects environment, sanitation workers, health and dignity of people. Now sanitation, as we know, international agencies has defined sanitation which emphasizes more on hygiene and good health and a dignified life. Now the topic which I have is sanitation worker from violence to a life of dignity. Now when we are talking about human rights, and when we are talking more about human rights, it is very much important to talk about the human rights of the sanitation workers which are being there. My paper has more emphasized on the right of sanitation with special reference to the right to dignity of sanitation workers. It also includes the historical background of conditions of the sanitation workers. It includes the human rights of sanitation workers. Paper will also emphasize on the constitutional rights, legislative rights, and also some major case studies which emphasizes in the importance of the right of dignity of the sanitation workers. And few of my suggestions will conclude the paper. The right to sanitation includes ensuring that there is no sanitation workers is manually involved in the cleaning of human excreta, which is specifically included in the strict enforcement of the Manual Scavenging Act 2013. It also includes ensuring environmental safety and health. It also includes availability of infrastructure, also at the provisional places like relief campsites, vendoring workers, communities in conflicts, and other unsettled groups. It also includes infrastructure according to the need of the different sections of the society, like gender specific, like age specific, like disabled people, for geographical and environmental condition in the life cycle and also necessary availability of water. It also includes suitability of the cultural practices which happens in India. Now let me give you a brief about the history where we can see that sanitation architects were present right in the Indus Valley civilization and Harappan civilization also, where water waste conveniences under the underwater drainage systems were there. But it were very specific to a limited class of the people. There were compartmentalizations in the 4 groups known as the Varna system. There are other mentions where there are specifically said there are 15 duties of the slaves, which includes the cleaning work which has been done by the sanitation workers. B.R. Ambedkar, Dalit himself traced practice of scavenging and social abuse to 600 AD. Even the Mughal time, it was been specifically said that women were supposed to stay in isolation and privacy, and because of that, this scavenging things were being increased because they were been doing the sanitation work in privacy, and then there were women who were cleaning all that work. Even the Hindus have this concept that it is an unholy thing to keep an toilet near the house. So there were no technical motivation which was being left at that time, where people wanted to create any new technology for this sanitation work. There were even the urbanization and the British colonization were also one of the reasons of increase in this manual scavenging thing. Now when we talk about human rights, I can very clearly say that inhuman practices of manually removing night soils, which were involved removal of human excreta from the dry toilets with bare hands. They were not given proper facilities, like no tools were being properly provided. They were being called bungis and Dalits or the scheduled caste people. But the ignorance of the human rights, civil rights and fundamental rights were being there. But for the protection, in the United Nations Declaration of Human Rights clearly mentions equal rights to all human beings. United Nations Committee of Economic, Social and Cultural Rights undermines specifically says that the human dignity and undermines the enjoyment of economic, social and cultural rights. There is no specific mentions of right to sanitation in the Constitution of India. But Article 21, right to life, which is broadly interpreted, includes right to sanitation. Even the mention in the Article 17, abolition of untouchability is closely linked with the work of sanitation workers. There are even specific provisions which are made for scheduled caste and scheduled tribe people to protect them. Caste-based discrimination and differentiation runs in the history of India. Even the ideological people like social reformers from Patanjali philosophy to the writers of Vivekananda, Gandhian concept of sanitation, the emphasis of sanitation was integral part of India's cultural foundation. Also various NGOs like Sulabh Internationals and WASH etc. works for the sanitation work which has been there. So if we talk about sanitation workers, then proper awareness facilities and various laws are specifically to be properly implemented. If we talk about the manual scavenging work which has been done in India, we can bifurcate into different forms. First is the removal of human excrement from the public streets and dry toilets, cleaning septic tanks and cleaning gutters and sewers, and manually cleaning of railway lines of excreta dropped from toilets of trains is another form of manual scavenging which has been done in India. The practice of manual scavenging officially banned since decades in India, but we can see that still there are many people who are working for this thing from years together. Putting to the constitutional rights, legislative rights, we can see that there are many acts which are mentioning specifically for the work of the sanitation. There are different acts like Delhi Commission for Safai Karamchari Act 2016, Employment of Manual Scavenging and Construction of Dry Toilets Act 1993. There is Prohibition of Employment as Manual Scavengers and their Rehabilitation Act 2013. There are also specific mentions been done in the labor law like Factories Act, where they say that there has to be proper sanitation facilities to be provided. There are also various policies which are been there: housing and urban policy in India, National Safai Karamchari Financial and Development, National Urban Sanitation Policies, and many more. Constitutional Act, as I specifically mentioned, Article 14, 15, 16, 17, Article 37, 38, which are the directive principles which are been there. They also mentions that there is the requirement of proper work to be done for the sanitation thing. Now, judicial judgments which are being given in the Safai Karamchari Andolan and others versus Union of India in 2014, the Supreme Court confirmed that approximately 9.6 million dry latrines in India are still being manually emptied, if not more, are identified as Dalits and are mostly women. This was a judgment which was been given in 2014. There are other such judgments which are also been there, but not getting into detail and not taking time of a lot of people, I will directly jump to some other things like United Nations Sustainable Development Goals also mentioned specifically under goal number 6 for water and sanitation facilities which are been there. There are also Swachh Bharat Abhiyan missions which are been there. There are this central government and state government policies which are been there. But what I want to specifically mention is even after having lots of different acts and policies, there are still people who are not been properly taken care of. There are people who are been working as manual scavenging. Rights of sanitation goes beyond. So there should not be just the presence of toilets to be there. There has to be proper awareness which has to be created among the people to use the things which are being there. The quality of toilets which are being created are also very poor so many times, and so people are not actually using the toilets, and they are being actually being used just as a storage or something like that. They are not being properly used. So there are these things. So because even after, as I said, mention of this so many acts, there are things. Recently there was an article in Times of India just before 10 or 15 days which said, narrated the story of a sanitation worker who died due to the poisonous gas present in the pit hole, who entered the pit hole to clean the same and he died. This incident took place in the Jamalpur area of Ahmadabad itself, and there was this whole article and this whole video clip also there where he was actually been doing such things. Another incident took place in Mathura, cited article, the same article in Times of India. There was an article just before a few months where again he was cleaning the septic tank and he was being suffer of a lot of diseases and ultimately he also died. So my suggestion basically is that there has to be a proper implementation to be done of all the acts which are been there, specifically for the protection of the manual scavengers and the rehabilitation works which are been there. It has to be done. Proper, I think, awareness right from the beginning to the school level. Right from the school level, there has to be proper awareness of creation. There is this cultural blockage in the mind of people where we say that using toilets, a lot of people believe that going toilet in open is more hygienical than this misconcept of the thing which is been there. So there are this billions of rupees which is been granted by the government, but the proper implementation is not been done. So there has to be a strengthening of institutions, effective monitoring of that whether the work is been done or not. There has to be taken. Cultural change, as I said, is to be properly taken care of. Even the behavioral change is required. Even the simplification of this municipal boards and all that things. There are variety of different types of boards, so people are not even aware where to go and complain about these things. That has to be done. There has to be a consolidated generalized sanitation law which should be there, and a strict implementation should be done against the government also if there is no proper implementation done. More technical improvements should be done, as we have already talked that there has to be individual participation, which is very much important. And last but not the least, this human excreta should be properly recycled and used so that it has been properly be channelized and there is this byproducts can be used for fertilizer or some other things. So thank you so much for giving me this opportunity at this level to be a part of this seminar. Thank you so much.
You should add Sulabh as important.
Yeah, it is one of the which I have written that in I have written in the NGO saying that Sulabh International has been working. Yeah, I did mention it. In my paper I can see that I have written the article which he.
If you go through
Mr.
the literature of Sulabh and last 2 days you'll add.
It's already I have mentioned specifically Pathak sir's name in my paper itself, where I have specifically because I have seen this Sulabh International Social Service work which has been done is been in such a big part that it cannot be missed out if in any paper. So it was a part of it, but just to cut short because my paper was a little lengthy one. Thank you so much.
Thank you.